Okay, so I've got a little a brief presentation here on the mobile app. Okay, so I guess the date's wrong on here. There was a previous time that I presented this to just developers. So there's going to be a mobile Clowder app. One of the reasons why this seemed like a good idea was that we have a couple of projects, at least that I've worked on, where people take pictures using their phones, and it would just seem like it's nice if the person could upload directly to Clowder as opposed to having to send it to them or attempt to use Clowder on their phone by like signing in. So I thought, well, why not have an app for that? So the app is written in Flutter. It's a popular framework for mobile development. It will be available on Android and iPhone. And the other thing that that's interesting about the app is that you can connect to any instances of Clowder that are out there. So it doesn't come preloaded with like some specific instance of Clowder that's running. You can pick whichever one you want. So like in this picture here, I've got like, this is one of the projects here that I've worked on. So like I can add that instance. And then when I sign in, it generates an API key that it's going to use in the future. So you don't have to keep putting in your password over and over again. And so far, what the app can do for now, I kind of put for now because I thought I would start with some pretty basic functionality and then see what else would work on a phone. You can view data sets, create data sets, add them to a space. You can take pictures and upload them to an existing data set, or you can create a data set and upload new images from your phone. I didn't put collections in this first batch because it was just getting difficult to browse, and I couldn't really find a good way to make them easy to navigate. But this at least lets people do kind of what I would think you would do on a phone. Oh wait, sorry. And here we can, because like we have like a screenshot where this is just showing whatever data sets I have available. And then here on the right, I have, these are from an emulator, so the images aren't really real, but this shows there's an instance of Clowder running where I've uploaded the images from my app there. And hopefully I can get a release out by the end of November. And here's also the repository if anybody's interested in checking it out. Oh yeah, that's pretty much it for the mobile app.
Thank you, Todd. So I'll ask the first question. What was the original driver with foresee?
There was a person who would go into a lab every day, and he would take pictures of dials on different devices that weren't hooked up to any kind of storage. Like these are just like really old school things. And so the idea would be that we thought, well, you know, he takes these pictures on his phone, he emails them to himself, and then he uploads them. Wouldn't it be better if he just took them from his phone, and it would save a lot of time? And then I've seen the same thing with other projects where, like, you know, there might be cases where people just want to take a picture and upload it easily. So that was kind of the motivating thing.
Cool. Yeah, we have a lot of projects also where people are taking pictures in the field out there, and this would be really helpful for those kind of use cases. Any questions? Any other questions for Todd?
So you're not, I mean, in Flutter, you're not using any WebP or anything. You're basically like rendering the data from Clowder through native.
Right. Yeah. Well, for the most part, I mean, the only thing that aside from I'm not. Yeah, it's like I was just doing it all through like Flutter that way.
Both of the projects we just heard so far, do they all use Clowder as the data repository and the API for accessing those data?
Yes, I was going to mention that. So yeah, so the reason why they have synergy and we kind of had these two presentations together is that they're both an example of clients, in this case, phone apps, but they could be a web app. Yeah, that do everything that you saw, they do using the web service API that Clowder provides. So there's a lot of interactions going behind the scene that was not necessarily highlighted. So Todd mentioned keys, also Coulter that there's API keys, and so behind the scene you might log in with a username, password, then you get this key, and then everything that you see in the UI, at least not everything, things that are stored in Clowder, both the bytes as well as information about the data sets, the collection spaces, it's all done through the API. And so we encourage people to write their own clients on top of it. So we have projects where, you know, they never see the actual Clowder interface, they just use it as a backend service.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for the question.
Is it only for image data?
It is not. That's a great question. Thank you. Some people believe that that's the case, but it's not. So, for example, Coulter mentioned that there is, you know, all sorts of different file types that they use Clowder for. Todd is focusing on uploading images, but there's nothing that would stop him from uploading videos or audio or anything else. So yeah, so Clowder itself is agnostic. It's just, you know, the byte plus all this rich metadata around it. And so yeah, you could put whatever you want, you know, in those files.
May I also ask the data storage in the Clowder, is it based on quantity, or is other data Postgres, or is it that file?
It's a mix of all of the above. So we have, the architecture is set up in such a way that we can provide different implementations behind the scenes for certain aspects. So for example, for the bytes of the files, we currently have files on disk, GridFS in MongoDB. We have an iRODS implementation that was roughly, and Mike just added an S3 bucket implementation. And so we can add more if there's different backends for that specific aspect. For the purposes of the metadata that you see, so information about the data set and everything else, the default is MongoDB, but again, you can actually write a different backend implementation. We did have a geostreaming API that was focused on time series data at different locations, geospatial locations, that used to be in Clowder. That was a plugin that used Postgres behind the scenes. That's being moved out as a standalone service. But that's an example where we actually would write from the Clowder API directly to Postgres.
Does the Clowder run totally in, or does every application bring its own Clowder backend?
You can share one instance, but one of the things that we try to do with Clowder is that we try to make it very easy for different projects and labs to set up their own. And so they have different ways to do that. So we maintain about, I don't know, 20 maybe instances local. There's a few other ones that we don't maintain around the country and outside of the US. But so we like to say that, you know, it's something that it's not a central service. You set up your own. And there's different ways to do that. And Rob and Mike have been working on some Kubernetes recipes to do that. We have some Docker Compose recipes that you can use to do that. And traditionally, we used to set them up as standalone Linux services. So you can do that as well. Thank you. So any other questions for Coulter, Todd, or anything else related to Clowder?
Can you customize the metadata with the photo or?
Right now I didn't add metadata or modifications just because I wanted to get something out, and it was also difficult to find out how I would do that through the phone.
Okay.
But that's a feature that if people want, I could look into it, or if someone wants to work on it and tries to add it, I mean, the repo's up there now, so.
So the same thing you can include a record on your GPS.
Yeah, I haven't actually thought about that. I don't believe I'm automatically including it right now. So, but it might be good to have an option that you can enable it if you'd like it, or turn it off if you don't.
Okay. So, but that is something that is better to do from a photo. Because I might have turned off GPS on my camera, on my phone on purpose, because I do not want you to know where I take my pictures. And the other thing that we've talked about in the past is that if I take a picture now and I walk to the other side of the country and I upload it from there, my GPS location where I uploaded probably is not relevant to where the picture was taken.
Actually, I was assuming you were going to use like add to a page for
Yeah, I'm guessing it could be used. I just didn't decide to do that yet. Part of it was I didn't know whether a lot of people would want to see that metadata or if it would be something that would just be noise for most people. But
right, but that's what I'm saying is that is not something that would happen in the camera app. Yeah. It would happen as an extractor. So this is
it'd be an extractor.
It could be, right? It could be one or the other. I mean, it's really up to the.
So a related question is, if you don't upload the metadata from the phone, the extractors, for example, the image extractors would be extracting metadata, right? From if it is available as from the file. So is that already happening through this process? Like,
yes. I mean, it's just uploading the file. So I'll repeat the question just to clarify for those who are not familiar with Clowder. When you upload files, there is these what we call metadata extractors in the background that could be running on that file. And so you can customize them, you can write your own and all of that. So the moment Todd uploads a file, or even Coulter, right, uploads a file to Clowder, depending on what's available and registered, it might fire automatically. So that's what Rob was mentioning, right, that could be the place where the EXIF information is extracted. In fact, we have an EXIF extractor that does that. And so that then become, top-level metadata on the file that was automatically extracted by the system. So yes, so there's nothing about the way they're using the API that would preclude Clowder from doing that. And vice versa, I would add that in the case of, related to this conversation, in the case of Coulter, if I understand it correctly, like he's adding metadata manually, right? His app has metadata that they want to add automatically, and so in that case, he doesn't need an extractor because the app knows what it wants to write attached to the file. So it's not just the file, but also this extra metadata that gets added.
So in this case of the Clowder app, I think